Imagine the scene. It's the cold, gray morning of January 31st, 1921. The waves off the coast of North Carolina are, notoriously rough. This area is known as the graveyard of the Atlantic for a reason. A surfman at the Cape Hatteras life-saving station peers through his spyglass. He spots something strange. A massive five-masted schooner is stuck on the treacherous Diamond Shoals. Its sails are ripped and flapping wildly in the wind. The ship is clearly in trouble, grounded and helpless, but, something is even more wrong. There is no one on deck. No one is signaling for help. The ship is eerily completely silent. This was no ordinary shipwreck. This was the beginning of one of the greatest maritime mysteries of the 20th century. The vessel was the Carroll A. Deering, a magnificent and modern sailing ship. For days, stormy seas made it impossible for rescuers to reach the stranded vessel. They could only watch from the shore as the ocean battered the ship's hull. The mystery deepened with every passing hour. Where was the crew? Were they lost in the storm? Or did something far more sinister happen out there on the open water? The ship sat like a silent tombstone, guarding a secret that we are still trying to uncover over a century later. The ship itself was a beautiful piece of engineering. Built in Bath, Maine just 2 years earlier, the Carroll A. Deering was a commercial cargo ship, designed to be fast and sturdy. It measured over 250 feet long with 5 towering masts that held a massive amount of sail. It was one of the last great sailing vessels of its kind, a final testament to the age of sail before steamships took over completely. These ships were the workhorses of the sea, carrying goods across vast oceans. They required a skilled and tough crew to operate, men who understood the wind and the waves. The Deering was a proud ship on a routine journey, which makes its fate all the more baffling. When rescue teams were finally able to board the wreck on February 4th, the scene they discovered was bizarre. It was a ghost ship in every sense of the word. They walked through the empty vessel, their footsteps echoing on the wooden decks. They found food laid out in the galley, as if the crew was about to sit down for a meal. The ship's navigational equipment was gone. The ship's logbook, the captain's official record of the voyage, was missing. Crucially, the ship's 2 lifeboats were also gone. It was clear the 11 men of the crew had abandoned their ship, but why? And where did they go? To understand what might have happened, we have to look at the people on board. The Carroll A. Deering was sailing under the command of Captain William H. Merritt. He was an experienced 66-year-old sailor. With him was his son, Sewell Merritt, serving as the first mate. The rest of the 9-man crew was a mix of nationalities, mostly Danes. Captain Merritt was a respectable man, but he became seriously ill at the start of the voyage in Rio de Janeiro, Brazil. He had to leave the ship. This single event may have set the stage for the entire disaster that was to follow. It was a bad omen for a journey that was already showing signs of trouble. With Captain Merritt too sick to command, the G.G. Deering Company had to find a replacement. They hired a man named Captain Willis T. Wormel. He was a retired veteran captain, also in his 60s. He was competent, but he was new to the ship and its crew. The company also had to hire a new first mate, a man named Charles B. McClellan. This is where the problems really started. Reports from Brazil suggest that Captain Wormel did not get along with his crew. He was heard complaining about his first mate McClellan, saying he was lazy and a drunkard. He even had to bail him out of jail at one point. This was not a happy ship. The tension between the captain and his first mate was obvious to others. Captain Wormel reportedly told another sea captain in Rio that he couldn't trust McClellan. He felt he had to do all the work himself. He even said, "I'll get him when I get to sea." This sounds like a threat. Did McClellan overhear this? Did he fear for his life? A ship is a small, isolated world. When the leaders are in conflict, it creates a dangerous environment for everyone. The crew is forced to take sides and discipline can break down completely. This wasn't just a simple disagreement, it was a deep-seated conflict brewing on a long, difficult voyage home. The Deering set sail from Rio on December 2, 1920, loaded with a cargo of coal. Its destination was Norfolk, Virginia. The journey should have been routine, but with a resentful first mate and a captain who distrusted him, anything could happen. Did the crew, already on edge, decide to take matters into their own hands? A mutiny is a serious and bloody affair, but on a ship filled with animosity, sailing through dangerous waters, it becomes a very real possibility. The stage was set for a human drama to unfold, far from any witnesses, with the vast, unforgiving Atlantic Ocean as its backdrop. When investigators finally pieced together the last known movements of the Deering, the story became even stranger. Just 2 days before it wrecked, it was seen by the Cape Lookout lightship off the coast of North Carolina. A crewman with a megaphone hailed the lightship keeper. He had a strange accent and said the Deering had lost its anchors in a storm. This was unusual but not impossible. The man said they would report it to the company. The lightship keeper, Captain Jacobson, noted that the crew seemed to be milling about on the deck, acting suspiciously. They were in an area where they shouldn't have been. This was our last contact with anyone from the ship. The clues found on the abandoned vessel paint a confusing picture. The missing lifeboats suggest the crew left the ship in an organized way, but why would they abandon a perfectly seaworthy ship to face the storm in small open boats? It doesn't make sense. Then there were the personal belongings. The crew's lockers were searched and their boots and personal effects were still there. People fleeing for their lives would likely grab warm clothing. The fact that they left these things behind suggests they left in a great hurry, perhaps forced off the ship against their will. It's a contradiction that investigators have never been able to solve. One of the most chilling details was found in the captain's cabin. Charts were laid out that showed a course not for Norfolk, Virginia, but for a point far from their intended destination. It was as if someone else had taken control of the navigation. The ship's logbook, which would have detailed the weather, the ship's position, and any events on board, was gone. This is a critical piece of evidence. A captain would never willingly part with his logbook. Its absence strongly suggests a cover-up. Someone did not want the story of this voyage to be told. The most famous clue, however, came a few months later. A fisherman found a bottle washed up on the shore. Inside was a note. It seemed to be a message from one of the crew. It read, "Deering captured by oil-burning boat, something like chaser. Taking off everything, handcuffing crew. Crew hiding all over ship, no chance to make escape. Finder, please notify headquarters Deering." The note seemed to solve the mystery. Pirates. But handwriting analysis later proved the note was a hoax, written by a local man who found the bottle. It was a dead end, but it added another layer of legend to the ghost ship story. So, what really happened to the 11 men aboard the Carroll A. Deering? Let's look at the theories. The most popular one is mutiny. The evidence for this is strong. We know there was bad blood between Captain Wormel and his first mate McClellan. The crew milling about on deck could have been the mutineers, having already taken control. A mutiny would explain why the logbook and navigational gear were taken. The new leaders would need them. It could also explain why they abandoned ship. Perhaps they tried to escape in the lifeboats but were caught and lost in the same storm that wrecked the Deering. Another theory is piracy. This was the age of prohibition in the United States, and smuggling was big business. Some believe the Deering was attacked by rum runners who wanted its cargo, or the ship itself. The pirates could have forced the crew into lifeboats and set them adrift before getting caught in the storm themselves. The US government even investigated known Bolshevik sympathizers, thinking Russian pirates were operating off the coast. However, there is no hard evidence to support an attack. No other ships reported pirates in the area, and the cargo of coal was still on board. It seems unlikely, but not impossible. Of course, we can't ignore the power of nature. The graveyard of the Atlantic is a real place. Some believe the ship was simply a victim of a powerful hurricane. Perhaps the crew, exhausted and battered by the storm, believed the ship was sinking. They might have taken to the lifeboats in a desperate gamble, only to be swallowed by the massive waves. This would explain the missing lifeboats. But it doesn't explain the missing logbook, the strange course on the charts, or the suspicious behavior reported by the lightship keeper. A storm alone doesn't account for all the strange details left behind. In the end, the mystery of the Carroll A. Deering endures because every theory has a hole in it. Mutiny seems plausible, but what happened to the mutineers? Piracy is exciting, but there's no proof. A storm is a logical explanation, but it doesn't fit all the facts. For over a century, this story has captivated us. It has everything: a beautiful ship, a troubled crew, and a silent, empty wreck. It's a perfect maritime ghost story, a puzzle with too many missing pieces. The truth about the final days of the Deering and its 11 lost souls likely went down with them, forever kept by the secrets of the sea.